I'm doing a video for Dwarven. I don't remember how he actually says that name, so if I'm wrong, sorry. He wanted to know where we'd been, what we had done, and where we would go back to again and stuff. And some of you who know my history know that my dad and he sold a lot of Briar and Briar Futures, and so he was not the top of the company. He was the little bottom of the company, the guy that went out into the fields and actually checked trees, bought trees, and then later on he became a salesman. And so he would sell those futures of the future briar. Now you're talking about he's gone out and looked at 100-year-old trees, but they're not going to be taken down until, maybe another 50, 70 years, even from now. So, but the thing is we traveled a lot as children. In the times periods that I was born, it was right after. You got to realize it's in the 50s. So we went to London, we went to Europe a lot. And a lot of it hadn't been rebuilt from the war still. We were still seeing a lot of people living in bad conditions and stuff. And because of what my dad did, a lot of those countries had a lot of regulations that went into effect in order to keep people out of their countries. So in order to do business in most of those countries, you had to have a lot of different certificates, validations and stuff. Luckily, my dad's company that he worked for had citizens in a lot of different countries and was able to travel and sell and be able to speak for the company, even though he was American. By the time I was like 7, I had to have my second passport because we'd traveled so much when we were younger that our passports were full, and so they had to issue us a second one. As far as where we went everywhere. I mean, there were places that we couldn't go. We didn't go to Russia and stuff like that, of course. We're still in the Cold War then. We used to pretend that my dad was a spy, but he wasn't. Just between us girls, we thought that would be neat. But as far as where we've been and how much we've traveled, you'd have to ask my older sister that, because my older sister is the historian of our family. She's the one that takes care of keeping track of it and did the timeline, and she is the one that is the genealogist and stuff in our family. My little sister was wonderful at being able to pick up. This is a Kamoy, and it's got IQ in it. Lane, 1Q. She was able to speak a lot of languages very quickly. And as a child, I think, because we were so young, she was able to pick them up quicker. And so I have to say that I'm the stupid one in our family. But that's all right. I don't mind being the stupid one in the family. When you got smart sisters, you accept it. But we went everywhere. But if there was a place that I could go back to and stay for any period of time, I would probably go back to Portugal. Portugal was, we were on some of the coastal towns by Lisbon, Amedia. I can't remember the name of the little coastal town, and I'll have to ask my sister one day. But anyway, that's where I would go back to. The nice thing about it was, my little sister was able to pick up the Portugal language very quickly, and my mother did know Portugal, so that probably was part of why the time there was so enjoyable, because we were actually able to do and learn about things in that language. But where we went was everywhere. Like say, my dad sowed briar and briar futures, and back then it was a different kind of world, and so you traveled. Sometimes you traveled uneasily. I can remember there was a lot of times when we were held up at customs, not because of what we were bringing in or taking out, but because of all the paperwork that was involved, because my dad was going to do business in those countries. And yeah, sometimes we were, what would somebody be doing with a suitcase full of wood. You know, why would they be taking back wood? And then of course my dad did have a bunch of other equipment that he took with him, because along with him buying this, they would do things like, I can remember being up there with him one time, and I remember the thunks of them taking a chunk out of a tree and then boring into it and taking part of that and putting it into some kind of a an oven type thing to measure the moisture, the content of the wood, the, I don't know, the bugs, the density, all of this stuff was done. And it really was a, a little bit more scientific than what kids understood. But I did understand what my dad was doing, you know, as far as he was checking out the briar, checking out the wood to see if it was going to be uh, what it would be like when it's dried and stuff, I guess. Nowadays, I don't know that they have as much, they have much easier equipment to do that with. I mean, I imagine now they still have to bore in there and stuff to get an idea of what they're going to get when they cut that tree down, if they're cutting it down for the briar. But most of the time, the trees weren't cut down for the briar. They were cut down for the convenience sake of a road coming through or something like that. And my dad had to be right on top of all that. And not just my dad, but my dad's company. You got to realize my dad was a very small part of his company. The company was small, but he was the small part. So when we would go to places and he would be out in the farms and out on in the little areas that had the trees and stuff, we usually stayed with little families. You know, we didn't stay with in the hotels and stuff. There just wasn't that availability for one thing, and we weren't rich, and so we did it the salesman's way. You know, we went and stayed with the family. We met a lot of the kids and stuff, and in Portugal, I met 2 or 3 kids that, you know, I just absolutely adored, and I still keep in touch with some of them. 2 of them have passed away, but Edwardy, I still take and get messages from once in a while, and it's always good to hear from him and his family and stuff. And I imagine one day I'll get the news that he's not there either, because we are all getting older. But right now, I'd like to go back, and it was Amedia, Amadora. Amadora, I think it is. But that's where I'd like to go back to. But as far as where we went to Europe a lot. We was all over. We were lucky enough to, I say, to be able to travel with my dad was really quite an amazing thing to do as children. My mother got sick when we were a little bit older, and so we didn't travel as much as we. I wish we had been able to travel and continue to travel into our teens and our 20s, but very occasionally did we get away to travel after that, like say, because my mom got sick. And the thing about it is and one of the reasons I would like to go back to Portugal is because during a bad time in my mom's life, late life, she wanted to go home. And she kept saying she wants to go home. Well, we finally got out of her, and she would speak Portugal, Portuguese, whatever it was. She would be speaking a foreign language and stuff, and it's my little sister who finally caught on that she wanted to go back to Portugal. And I think the reason that she thought that was home was because that was probably some of the best times in our life. We were down there for a while. We were on a sea coast in a little village, and we were playing always out there. Every day we got to go to the water, and like I say, in some ways, I would like to go back there because that's where my mom was the happiest in her days and times. So, although she grew up in Kentucky, and if you ever want to hear me speaking a little Southern, you just got to get me around some of my family, and I end up with a little bit of an accent. Hi, my name is Sue. May I help you? Kind of thing, and it just all goes back to what you learn when you're children, but. That's where I'd like to go back to. Of course, you know, this is just a support video, and I wanted everyone to know that you're out there. So, happy, joy, joy. You know I'm watching you.